after the final buzzer. This is where you come for instant post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Feet Krejci from the Czech Republic. Throws the hand grenade to Niang, and he hits another three. Wow. He has been a killer tonight. This becomes Atlanta's biggest lead.
And the Warriors take a loss as the Hawks at that point, with their largest lead of the game, it was 22. The Warriors end up putting up a fight in the fourth quarter, but they were facing an uphill climb throughout the course of this game, and they dropped the first game of the six-game roadie without Steph Curry in Atlanta. 124-115 is the final. We welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. That is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text here if you want to jump in and join the conversation. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open for you, as are the phone lines. Appreciate everybody, as always, watching on YouTube and Twitch, and we get it rolling here on just heavy duty already. The commenters love the regulars. Just some initial thoughts on this one. Look, we talked about it on Just Dubs, and by the way, Kyle, we still have the Just Dubs up on the screen. That's a Saturday staple. It's a super easy thing to like click over and change, but I finally come to the, I'm just like, I'm just going to say it because I know it's really easy for Kyle to flip the switch between Dubs OT and Just Dubs. And we've had that happen here of late with all these Saturday games the last 3 weeks here, 4 weeks, actually. This is the fourth straight week where the Warriors have been playing on Saturday, and we've been going from Just Dubs to Dubs OT. But some thoughts on this one. I thought just in general, the Warriors played this game, in my mind, like they heard everybody in the Bay saying that they can win the next 4 games, starting with tonight, without Steph, just by showing up. And I thought the effort early in this one, really the effort for the entire first half, most of the first half, was a joke effort at the beginning. The defense was just absolutely atrocious in the early part of this game, in the first half and in the first quarter. In particular, just zero resistance, and the Warriors are going to have to play a lot better defensively if they're going to win without Steph Curry. The one thing that's gone in these games with the Warriors not having Steph Curry, we talked about it this morning on Just Dubs. The one thing that is gone is you can't get off to lackadaisical starts where you're playing terrible defensively because you don't have Steph to get on that heater for 15, 20 and a quarter as you're coming back. And I think tonight basically laid out exactly like the Bulls game in Chicago did, and exactly like the game in Brooklyn did, where the Warriors got down 27-5. You fight back, you play better, but guess what you're missing in the midst of fighting back and playing better? You're missing Stephen Curry starting to feel the energy of the game and completely taking it over and getting you those extra buckets to where you're not cutting it down to 8, but you're cutting, you're tying it, or you're taking the lead, and you're basically resetting the game at that point. And so tonight, the Warriors just didn't have it, and didn't have it from the beginning. Again, credit, I guess, for some of the fight in the second half and in the fourth quarter, but the Hawks had every answer. The Warriors threw the ball away a couple of times where they maybe could have really made the Hawks sweat, but the Hawks never really had to sweat in this game at all. Kind of a light work effort game for the Hawks. And for whatever reason, the long flights and road trips, and the Warriors have, Trae Young getting up against them during his time in the league. It is 6 consecutive games lost in Atlanta. Atlanta can be a party city if you get there the night before a game. Maybe not to the extent that Miami or multiple days in Miami can be. But the Warriors, long flight. Maybe you have a couple of people that like to go out and have some fun in Atlanta. the night before a game, and then you don't have it, or maybe it's just a culmination of kind of getting gassed up a little bit. I think the Warriors, again, that's the jumping off point for me in this thing, is just the fact that they played like a team that heard everybody yesterday and since Thursday, and really I think even since Tuesday, the game that the Warriors had to play without Steph against Milwaukee. Everybody kind of, oh yeah, you can beat Atlanta. And look, I was guilty of it as anybody, but I also cautioned everybody. I was not going to be easy. I thought the Warriors were capable of winning these games, but I laid it out very, very specifically on Just Dubs for those that didn't hear it. I mean, they were going to have to be competitive from the jump. There was none of this come out and, defense optional and think you're going to outscore anybody. You got to have the grit and grind mentality that the Warriors have had here. And so, and they did not have it from the jump. 19 points in the first 4 minutes of this game for Atlanta, 24 points in the first half of the first quarter, 5 minutes and 27 seconds. They were down 40-23 after one. It was 38-18 at one point. Again, just ugly stuff defensively. And this team's not good enough offensively without Steph. I mean, that's just the other reality check. They're just not good enough offensively without Steph to win these games where you're going to have to score 125 to 130 points. You got to get the game at least into the 110, 115 range at a minimum. And the Warriors ended up hitting some threes tonight, 16. Well, not necessarily pushing 20, but 16-38 is not a terrible night. But Atlanta was extremely comfortable. Atlanta not only dominated tonight in the paint, which I think is where they established themselves early, but they also were winning from the three-point line throughout the course of the night. And George Niang ending up with 23, Trae Young controlling the game. Okongwu, I thought, was really pounding the Warriors early and hit a couple of threes himself. Ricochet had himself a nice game and knocked down a couple of threes. But yeah, the what the Warriors need was just not there early, and they set a bad tone. And again, this team's not good enough to be able to come back and win games with their offense without Stephen Curry. And so, despite a couple of runs here after the Warriors were down 12, and kind of fortunate to only be down 12, I thought at the beginning of the third quarter, they quickly cut it down to 6 with a couple of threes, and it was 77-69 middle of the third quarter, and the Hawks quickly get on an 8-0 run from there, and it was a Jonathan Kuminga missed 3, a Moses Moody turnover, Draymond Green missed a layup, Moody had another turnover, and all of a sudden it went from 8 right back up to 16, and then eventually to 19 shortly thereafter. And I thought that was probably a wrap for the night. Warriors were getting smoked in the third, or in the early part of the fourth, 103-83. Again, they made one final push. Credit for the intensity, even though the Warriors were struggling. It was the group that it was the GP2, Moody, Butler, Draymond Green, and Quentin Post. That group gave one final effort. Podziemski ended up back in the game there as well. One final push to try to make a game of it, but too many turnovers, unable to get stops, and just an overall poor performance there that leads to this loss. And again, the Warriors are going to, bad loss for sure. I think it's less bad considering the fact that you don't have Steph. And again, I think it's hard for this team to have a bad loss without Steph, right? Truly. But again, the way that they've played of late and the way Jimmy Butler's been able to impact things, I think maybe we started to believe that this thing could, they could figure out a way to win some of these games even without Steph. But kind of like the game 3 weeks ago was a tell that the Warriors immediately are not a great team when Jimmy Butler's not out there, and that loss in Philadelphia tonight kind of is one of those reminder type games for me as it relates to Steph. And I couldn't really explain the 7-3 the other night. in the games without Steph. But again, I'd be willing to bet if you had to play another 9 without him, it would be worse than the 7-3. It definitely will be unless you come for battle. And the Warriors just did not come for battle. Again, you're a completely different team without Steph Curry. You have to be a defensive oriented, try to make it first to 105 or 110. I feel like in an attempt to win some of these games without Steph. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 as we welcome you in here. Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader as the Warriors fall to 41-30 on the year. So where does this leave Golden State as it relates to the standings now? Golden State a half game up on the Clippers. The Clippers have jumped Minnesota. Minnesota has lost a couple here after their winning streak, and the Clippers jumped Minnesota. They've won 5 in a row now, 40-30, and the Warriors are in a position here where no Clippers tonight. They'll play tomorrow, but the Warriors are in a spot where, and they host Oklahoma City tomorrow, does the Clippers, where if the Clippers win, the Warriors are back in 7th for as great as they've played at this point, and you've still got Minnesota hot on their heels as well. And you look at where things are, no Minnesota tonight. Chicago and the Lakers are going to play a little bit later. Milwaukee and Sacramento playing a little bit later. LeBron James coming back tonight as well for the Lakers after missing a couple of weeks there. So bad night for the Warriors all told, and they're going to have to rebound and bounce back and not get caught up in the Miami flu here in what's a big game for Jimmy Butler in his return from return following the trade that sent him out and all of the ill will between the organization and all the ill will between him and Pat Riley and the fan base and all of that. So that's going to become kind of a focal point as the Warriors will head from Atlanta to Miami tonight. They'll have an off day in Miami tomorrow. They'll have a practice in Miami on Monday. That's the plan. And then to play the game on Tuesday before another off day in Miami and a practice there on Thursday before heading to New Orleans to continue the trip here. So one game coming up in the next 5 days. And obviously that game's going to take on an entirely different tone with it being the return for Jimmy Butler back to Miami. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The number to jump in and join the conversation, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line 408 here, couple on the line here to get us tipped off. JD, do you think people should stop talking about the 5th seed and even the 6th seed as some lock at this point? It's definitely not a lock. I mean, tonight proves that. I mean, the Warriors, if the Clippers somehow are able to beat Oklahoma City tomorrow and the Clippers are playing quality basketball, the Warriors are 7th at that point. Now, you could, I was having this conversation a little bit during the game, you could say if you're the Warriors and you fall to 7, but as long as you win that first play-in game to secure 7 and the Rockets stay in 2nd, that may wind up being an acceptable outcome. Again, as we discussed a lot on Just Dubs, it was, it's too close to manipulate at this point. So you just have to try to be as good as you can and not mess with the basketball gods, as Andis Brown said, I think earlier in the chat, and just take what you can get and try to win against whatever whoever your opponent winds up being. But 6 is not a lock. 7's not a lock. They could end up 8. And go on the road to play for 7 or wind up having to play a second play-in game against a Sacramento or a Phoenix or somebody just to get in. So that is the way it's going to have to be. 650 scanning the stats. Maybe if Draymond and Buddy had better offensive games, the Warriors could have pulled it out. Yeah, the Warriors did not get light night for Buddy Hield in terms of minutes, 5 points in only 17 minutes, and Draymond not the Draymond impact from a scoring standpoint that the Warriors have been used to, at least of late, for Draymond Green. And, look, the other part of this, I'm just going to throw it out there. Did Jonathan Kuminga play well tonight or not? Like, I was having the chat, and I'll bring in Kyle. I don't think Kuminga played well tonight. He ended up with 16 points, which I guess I didn't even realize this at the time, but he was, let's see, he ended up with 16, but it was all kind of in one stretch. It reminded me a lot of the Toronto game where he was pretty bad in his first shift. He was pretty good scoring the ball, though he took some bad shots in his second shift. And then he was pretty bad in his third shift. And Kerr didn't even go back to him. And I thought it was the right call tonight. But it's just the shot selection. Like, he is not Kawhi. He is not Paul George. He is not Kobe. Kyle, I think you said it beautifully as we were talking before. So I want to give you the opportunity to speak to it right before we came on the air. He is not the reason the Warriors lost. I mean, he's part of the reason with just about everybody else that didn't play well. But it just, even when he's scoring, he's not playing well. I didn't think he was good tonight at all.
Yeah. What I told you was that his worst stretches his bad stretches are worse than his good stretches are good. Yes, he can score 10 points in 3 minutes, and that provides some optimism. And I've been an optimist about Kuminga's potential. But then you look at it as, in this game in particular, where Steph Curry is out, this has been a game where pre-injury he's thrived in, and he did not have it tonight. And I believe he had 0 points in the second half.
Yeah, nothing in the second half. And, I mean, there was the point at which he stopped his dribble against Trae Young. And, I mean, it was not good. Yeah, LA Night Stalker pointing that out, and that was on my notes. But he just, I don't think he played well. I think it was the types. It's not the points, it's how he gets them. I think that's important. And he did not get them for the most part in ways that help this team win. It's 16 points, but it's 14 shots. And that's, I just keep coming back to the fact that he feels like he has to be this volume, shooter to be able to be successful in some of these games. Like, it's like you can tell he's caught in between. And I think this is the other thing. Like, you can look at the indecisiveness of Kuminga at times, and he is clearly caught between two things. And I'll tell you the two things that I think he's caught in. He's caught in, I think, without Steph especially, and moments where he's not on the court with Jimmy Butler. And there's been quite a few of both of those. I think it's the same thing. In his mind, he thinks he needs to dominate. And the number one way he knows how to dominate and has confidence in dominating is driving and stopping and rip through and pull up jumper and turnaround jumper. And like, he thinks he's Kobe Bryant. Like, he thinks he's like that type of player. I'm not saying he thinks that he's as good at this point, but he thinks he's that style of player, that wing that is great in the mid-range, even though he's terrible in the mid-range. Doesn't always want to put his head down and get all the way to the bucket, kind of wants to finish finesse, even though he's really good at drawing fouls. And I thought, there's always one or two plays a game. Like, there was another one tonight where he took an awful shot, faded away, got bailed out. Like, there's probably 2 plays a game where he gets bailed out and probably shouldn't when he takes an awful shot. So the shot selection I thought was terrible in the game tonight. And it has to be more efficient. And I think the other thing he's caught between needing to dominate, and he's caught, by the way, Jimbo saying Kuminga 10 shots, 7 makes. No, he was 6 for 14 tonight. So he took 14 shots. Like that 10 shots and 7 makes is what you want him to get 16 points on. honestly, or what you want him to get about 20 points on was 6 free throws. Like that's the thing. But he's caught between, I think, the belief that he needs to dominate and kind of knowing only one way to dominate, which is that, look to be an aggressive dribbler and drive and stop and fade and like that the Kawhi, Paul George, Kobe thing. And he's caught between trying to do what Steve Kerr wants him to do, which is keep the ball moving and run the offense and get it back. And so I think that's what leads to the worst case scenario, which is he gets caught in between and he comes off as indecisive, because I think he's a little bit in his own head from doing what he wants. Again, he thinks he's a dominant force scorer. He really does. He thinks he's like low-key Kevin Durant. I'm telling you, I've said this for a long time. I haven't gone down this road in a while, but he really has an extremely high opinion of the type of player he is. And I think in his mind, he thinks Steph's out. I'm going to go get me 25 to 30, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I think inherently actually wants to do that. He wants to take some of those wing jumpers. He wants to take some of those threes, but then he's also hearing Steve Kerr in the back of his mind, in the back of his head saying, kick it out, keep it moving. And so he gets, get it back later, keep the, and I think he gets, that's where he comes off as indecisive, and that's the worst possible outcome for him. So yeah, and again, no real impact in any other ways tonight, I think, is the other problem. Like he kind of gets in that mode where I feel like he wants to only do the scoring, and the scoring will be enough. And it's like, no, you're a role player, you're a hustle player, and it's 2 assists, it's 2 boards. He did have a couple of nice passes, and again, I hate to. Draymond didn't have it tonight offensively. Again, I'm not putting it on him, but so much of when somebody is out, Steph or Jimmy, inherently comes back to, I know it's his 5th game back or whatever, comes back to, well, Kuminga has to do more. I never really am one to put that on his plate. A lot of people put that on his plate as well. And Jimbo, the counting stuff, man, Pods was far better tonight than Jonathan Kuminga. Like, don't give me this 36 minutes. Pods had 20 and 36. Kuminga had 16 and 22. Like, that matters. It doesn't matter. Like, again, like one guy was taking Podziemski had 8 boards, 4 assists, a steal, took a charge. Like, he was impacting the game. Like, Kuminga did not deserve those minutes that he did not get in the fourth quarter. He didn't deserve to play in the fourth quarter tonight because of how well he played. So again, Dig on 117, I'm looking at it. JD, do you think that who he plays with plays into that? Yeah, I think Kuminga's better when he plays with better players. I do. I think he's better. I mean, I know that's kind of Kyle's looking at me like, well, duh, JD. But no, I think because he'll be more deferential to better players. I think when he's out on the court and Steph's not and Jimmy's not, he looks to try to dominate, and that's not the guy that they really truly need, even if he is, quote unquote, the guy on the court in those moments. Like they need him to kind of just play a real sharp, well-intentioned game regardless. But I think, one, the game is easier for him when he's out there with better players. Like, he's not really truly equipped to dominate without other good players on the court. Like, that's the other reality check thing. But the Warriors are still trying to figure out, and this is where I do think it is too early. They're figuring out the right combinations and he's basically been coming in for Jimmy and not playing as much with Jimmy. He's closed some halves and games with Jimmy and with Draymond. And then now you take Steph away and it's one less shooter. So you feel like maybe you need to have one more shooter out there. And then that maybe leads to him not play. So it's, again, I'm not saying it's absolute. And again, I'm not saying he's the primary reason the Warriors lost tonight. I think the primary reason was they didn't come out in the first half and put any kind of defensive imprint on the game at all. They collectively acted like they could just show up. So again, before everybody starts ranting and raving and getting all pissed off, thinking I'm blaming Kuminga for the loss. I'm not blaming Kuminga for the loss, but I think some are going to look at his line and say he had 16 points in 22 minutes. Why did he play more? Well, because he wasn't good. And 2 out of the 3. It's also like good shift, bad shift, right? He had a bad first shift. He had a good second shift, although I don't think it was great because he wasn't taking great shots, although he hit a couple, and he got fouled a couple times. And then he had a really bad third shift. And when you have the really bad third shift, it meant that you were not going to play at all in the fourth quarter. And that's what ended up happening here for the Warriors and for Jonathan Kuminga tonight. So, again, it's a work in progress. He's on the team. They've got to figure it out. I do think, tonight is another one of those nights, and we've had a few people. We'll get to Kyle's clicks coming up after a quick timeout. But we've had a lot of people talking about, the fact that, trade candidate, could he be? And again, tonight's another one of those nights that just begs for if his spot on the roster was somebody that could just knock down shots consistently and played a little bit of a steadier game with Jimmy Butler being able to try to hold it down, and not having Steph, the balance of this team and the balance of the roster would probably be better at that particular point. But again, as I said, he's on the roster. He's not the reason they lost. Collective bad effort, especially early, and the Warriors are going to have to try to figure it out here with a couple of days off in Miami before taking on the Heat. So let's take a quick timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. If you want to react to that, we'll get to Kyle's clicks, more from the YouTube chat and on Twitch, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We'll have some sounds of Dubs OT tonight, and we'll continue rolling as the Warriors lose the opener of this trip. They're 41-30. Hawks beat the Dubs tonight, 124-115. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Hoops Heads, Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps balling. Streaming live at twitch.tv/the sports leader.
And it's Gay on the roll. Draymond Green shot a little look at Gay, too. Quentin Post comes to the corner. Quentin Post for three. That is purity.
All right, Warriors lose in Atlanta. We're back here. Dubs OT with JD here on a Saturday night. Kyle Hart, our San Francisco studios. Warriors lose the opener of the 6-game road trip as the Hawks beat the Dubs in this one 124-115. Outscored are the Warriors 60-44 in the paint. They were down big into the first quarter, 40-23. As the Warriors trailed in this one by as many as 22 points, just not enough intensity or effort or attention to detail or physicality or defense or any of those things in the first half for the Warriors. Got it to within 6 in the third quarter, got it to within 8 in the fourth quarter, but never really put a good sweat into the Hawks in this one, as the Warriors now 41-30 on the season. A couple of just quick notes. Jimmy Butler, 38 minutes in this one, which I guess is okay because he's got the next couple of days off in Miami and then the next couple of days off after the game in Miami. But Jimmy plus 11 in 38 minutes. The 8 minutes that or the 10 minutes basically that Jimmy Butler didn't play in this one, and let me make sure I got the final number correctly. Yeah, Jimmy ended up 11, so he was a minus 20 in 11 minutes that he didn't play. So it ended up 37 on, rounding, and 11 off, and in the 37, the Warriors were plus 11. In the 11 minutes that Jimmy Butler did not play in this game, they got beat by 20. And so that was a difference-making note in this one. Jonathan Kuminga, 16 points in the first half, nothing in the second half. He ended up being a game worst for the Warriors, minus 18 in just 21 minutes. Guy Santos didn't have it, and Kerr went away from him quickly, minus 13 in 4 minutes. Just kind of looking at some of the numbers and the plus-minus numbers. Kuminga and Guy, the worst. And Kuminga didn't get closing minutes tonight, didn't earn them. Santos didn't even get a second shift tonight after being a minus 13 in 4 quick minutes. And that was a wrap for him on the night, where Jimmy Butler scores 25. Moses Moody ended up having 20. Podziemski with 19. And Quentin Post, who played one of the highlights there. Quentin Post continuing to get into double digits and continuing to knock down open threes. He did that in this game tonight as well. But yeah, you look at some of the numbers for the Warriors now, 16-4 since acquiring Jimmy Butler, and 1-1 in games without Steph, but with Jimmy Butler. And we'll see where the Heat end up standing. I know they play Charlotte before they play the Warriors tomorrow, but they're on a 10-game losing streak. If they can't beat Charlotte tomorrow, that's a whole new rock bottom. But you know that the Heat are going to have a lot of fight going up against Jimmy, and you know that Jimmy and the Warriors are going to have a lot of fight going up against Miami and trying to have Jimmy Butler's back in the feud that basically ended his time down in South Florida. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is up here as well. Let's get into the chat this segment, and we always appreciate it on Just Dubs and on Dubs OT. Bennett Roth getting us started here on the chat. JD, you called it today on Just Dubs. They just can't afford to start slow and be down, and that's exactly what happened. And yeah, 29-17 turned into 38-18 and 40-23 at the end of the first quarter. So it's one thing to get down 10 or 12. This team really it can't be 22. If they had only gotten down 12 instead of 22, they would have had a shot to win the game late, even though they did not play well. And by the way, you're not going to want to miss what Draymond Green had to say post-game relating to this loss. But yeah, you can see it coming. The mentality for the Warriors has just not been in some of these road games against quote unquote lesser opponents. Again, the Hawks have beaten them 5 straight years and had some better teams than this year's team, but just did not have the right intent on the game here tonight. So let's go to another one here. Good call, Bennett. LA Night Stalker. JK's agent has to be panicking right now because his market is shrinking fast. These other teams are seeing what we are. And yeah, that's one thing. And I've said this, and I will try not to belabor it. Sometimes I can get a little long-winded. The Warriors are going to have, unless Kuminga truly gets it going, and I think it's still a little early. Kuminga does in many games tend to be a slow starter. And look, this is what we've seen every time. And in Kuminga's defense, every time he's been on a roll and gotten hurt, he comes back and he doesn't play well initially. He really doesn't. Again, the Sacramento game was the perfect template because everything was in the context of the offense. But they didn't look to have him do anything other than just get his off of the actions and cuts and easy buckets and transition and defense. That's the quintessential the Kuminga that can help the Warriors win a title is the Jonathan Kuminga we saw in the game against Sacramento. But I've said this a little bit at different points. The Warriors are going to have the opportunity unless he really figures it out and starts playing like he was before that injury. They're going to have an opportunity to really hardball Kuminga on the contract and basically tell his agent, look, you're only as good as the offer you can drum up. And we're not offering you $35 million a year. And we're not offering you $30 million a year. In fact, we're not even going to offer you a penny more than an offer you can drum up. And if the offer you can drum up is 4-80, then we're going to, or 4-88, then guess what? Or 4-90, that's what we're going to match. And if you don't look to sign an offer sheet with another team as a restricted free agent for that number because you deem it to be too low, then our number is going to be 5-95. Or 5-105 or something. I mean, they actually, in a way, have the ability to get Kuminga at kind of a bargain if they're willing to play hardball. And I think if you know anything about the Warriors, and this is where this scenario with Kuminga is a little bit different, but the Warriors have basically played hardball with everybody among their, even Steph at one point. There was the whole not giving him a trade, no trade clause, or not offering him the full max at one point. And then they obviously gave him the full max. And this is going back almost a decade after his 4-44 contract when he had the ankle issues and didn't want to give Clay the full number, his first go round, and then ultimately did. And so, they've gone back and forth. Didn't give Steph the no trade clause that at one point that he wanted it and held firm. So they can play hardball. Now, this may be a little bit of a different scenario because the belief is that Joe Lacob, who's handing out the money, is the biggest fan of Kuminga in the organization. But I really think as things stand right now, I mean, tonight, right now it's a no-brainer. But if I do think he's going to play better than he has to this point, I just think it's where you just have to hope the expectations have to be clamped down. It has to be more that 20 to 25 minute, have it look like the Sacramento game kind of expectations. It's not this look to let him cook and be the number 2 and shoot all the middies and the turnarounds and the lean ins trying to draw, trying to foul merchant like that stuff. That ain't it. Like the type of game he played tonight and the type of game that he played against Toronto, even though he had a decent stretch in both of those games, ain't it. It ain't it. Simply put, that ain't what's going to help this team win a title. But as far as panicking, I don't know. But yeah, the number is coming down. That should not, though, prevent the Warriors from, if it continues down the path that it's heading down right now, from looking to move them. Because again, as I have said all the time, he's either going to fit the role the Warriors need, or he's going to be the chip that gets the player that fits the role the Warriors need. Point blank, bottom line, end of story. Good comment there. Tony Smith, Kuminga should be shipped out this summer. We need someone else that can shoot the ball. Again, I think that's the easy answer. Like, they need a shooter in his slot. They really do. They need a 25-minute a night shooter, guy that can come off the bench maybe and or start depending upon the lineups, and defend, and maybe be a little bit taller than Draymond and help them switch everybody. Like, that's the kind of player that you need truly in a closing lineup. Like, if you're going to close, if you're going to, Steph and Draymond and Jimmy, whether it's Podziemski or Moody as the other guard, you really need that other guy. If it's not going to be Quentin Post and you're going to go with it, but you need that other guy with Draymond and Jimmy to be a wing shooter, and they don't have it. Alpha, JD, I'm all for the Kuminga for Cam Johnson swap this offseason. Well, Cam Johnson's making about 20 to 22 million a year. And I think I can't remember if he's making 22 and then it goes down to 20, or he's making 20, it goes up to 22, 22.5, something like that. I haven't really looked at Cam Johnson's contract since it became apparent in late January that the Warriors were not going to trade for him. And I even had a couple people tell me, JD, I know you like him, but it ain't happening. So, and for obvious reasons, I mean, they were trying to go in and make bigger stuff happen, and they ultimately ended up making something bigger happen in getting Kuminga. But yeah, Cam Johnson would be a perfect fit. Perfect fit. Joke's on you. I don't think Jimmy likes playing with Kuminga. You can see it in their interactions at least once a game. He looks at him like he has three heads. I mean, Kuminga sometimes, the one thing that people don't totally realize with Kuminga is he does a lot of things that the casual fan does not notice, but the guys like Draymond and Jimmy and Steve Kerr notice immediately and get really pissed off at. That is just like missed assignment, bad rotation. It's not even usually offense. Somebody that's indecisive on offense, that can be one of the things. Like, make a decision quickly, keep the ball hopping, and he doesn't typically do that. I think it's too early to say Jimmy doesn't like playing with him. I think there was probably a little too much put on the whole Kuminga needs to try to be like Jimmy thing. I think Jimmy likes dogs. Like, Jimmy likes guys who have the dog in him. And here's the rat on the table about Kuminga. Kuminga doesn't always have the dog in him. He kind of tries to cruise sometimes. Like, he's got the Kobe mentality in terms of wants to go out there and shoot turnaround jumpers and be a big time 30-point a game scorer. Like, he's got the Kobe mentality there, but he does not have the Kobe mentality when it comes to tenacity and hard work and defense and hustle and rebounding and those kinds of things. He has kind of a, I want to be Paul George or De'Aaron Fox, cool and coasting and, just kind of doing my thing mentality. And so that does not roll with Draymond, and that does not roll with Kuminga or with Jimmy. Again, it doesn't roll with Steve Kerr either, but because of all of the different things that have happened between the agent and the organization and the coaching staff and all those things, everybody's tried to play, and I've said this, everybody's tried to play really nice and not get too down on them and not get too frustrated publicly with them. But again, I think there are times where Kuminga comes off in his play as someone that's not team first, that's, just that doesn't impact winning if he's not scoring. And if he's not getting the minutes and not getting the touches, he kind of doesn't care about doing the other stuff. Like, he needs the adulation that comes from the scoring. to get him kind of get that motor going to do the other things. All right, let's keep it going. Drew Butler, people saying this could be a blessing in disguise without Steph. Ridiculous. Grinding the Bucks game out, but can't rely on that every game. No, they need Steph back. I think tonight you can say, all right, one-off, beginning of a trip, one day in between. This team really, I think the other part is the Warriors really haven't, let's be honest, the Warriors haven't played well really since the Sacramento game. Like, if you really want to go back now and didn't play well tonight, lost, again, they've not had Steph in a couple of these. They grinded out the Knicks game a week ago tonight. They laid an egg against Denver. They grinded out the Bucks game. They grinded out, even though they didn't play a lot of defense until the fourth quarter. The game against Toronto, a lot of defense down the stretch there, kind of laid an egg tonight. So they really have not played well for about a week now, and they're dealing with some injuries. Some are going to disagree with me, Drew, but I think they need Steph back by the Pelicans game. And 2 days off after this one, play Miami. 2 days off after Miami, play the Pelicans. That's 6 days from today, next Friday. I think they need him back by the Pelicans game to get him kind of work back in before, to me, you need a game or two before you start to play some of the more difficult opponents. And so Pelicans, Spurs, at least the Spurs game to where he has a little bit of a runway to get going before you have to go to Memphis and then the Lakers. And then you're home for, again, two more grinders right out of the chute, Denver and Houston coming up on that homestand. But we're a long ways away from that, 2 weeks. But yeah, this is, it's not a blessing unless the Warriors can win some games without him. That's the only way it's a blessing, Drew, is if they can win some games without him. And tonight was an opportunity missed to win a game without him. Continuing on here, Dubs OT with JD. When is playoff Jimmy going to show up? Poole would have won us this game with no Curry. Yeah. I think playoff Jimmy's going to show up in the playoffs. I think you answered your own question there, LA. But I think that's when playoff Jimmy, I don't know that Poole wins him this game in particular, but he might have won him a game he might win him a game like this over a 4-game stretch. He might win him 2 games like this. If you had to, that I will say. And, maybe this team ends up winning 4 games, 2 games of the 4 anyway. We'll have to let it play out if Steph ends up out that long. But I hear you in terms of just having that lead guard that can get his own. It's an element that the Warriors have not had since they traded away Jordan Poole. And it becomes, I think, more of an issue the more games you have to play without Steph, even though you have added Jimmy Butler. You're just a different team. No Steph with Jimmy, you're just a different team. You're just a team that has to win almost first to 100 or first to 105. Drew, Okongwu destroyed the Dubs, athletic power forward type. Yeah, he's really a center. And, he's a center. He does play both some of the time. But he started at the center for them tonight. I think, to the OGs, he's a power forward. But yeah, I like his game. He a couple of blocks, can step out, not afraid to shoot the 3, but he destroyed the Warriors in the paint. You look at some of the shot charts tonight. He mentioned he hit a couple of the 3s, but Okongwu in the paint tonight, 8 of 13 in the paint, and 4 of them were like little mid-range in the circle, but kind of free throw line jumpers. He was 1 for 4 on the little free throw line jumpers, or 1 for 5 actually on those. So he was 7 for 8 really in the paint. Like he was 7 for 8 at the rim. In front of the semicircle, in front of the dotted line, he was 7 for 8 and really led to the dominant 60-44 performance that the Hawks had over the Warriors in the paint tonight. So yeah, he was excellent, and he is the kind of guy that does give the Warriors a lot of trouble. JMU 22. Big Z will cook. Dominant athletic bigs tend to cook us. Look at Okongwu tonight. Gordon the other night. Yeah, Gordon's a problem. Gordon is a problem for the Warriors. I think I tended to believe that a lot of Gordon's success against the Warriors was Jokic, and Gordon showed everybody on Monday night, no, actually it's Gordon. So I think that's interesting. Because he got his own even without Jokic feeding him. A lot of times they're running that little high-low, or they're throwing a lob. Jokic is finding him for a big bucket, and so it's interesting when you look at the way things shake out as far as some of those bigs and different things. Let's continue on here. 808 KNBR. Joke's on you, JD. Kuminga's back to looking indecisive. Out there just taking up space. No defense, no rebounding. Ball lands in his hands. He keeps it or passes a grenade. There's been a lot more of that. There's been a lot more of that as well. No question. And again, the indecisiveness, I think, is being caught in between what Steve Kerr wants him to do and the kind of player that he thinks he is, especially with Steph or Jimmy Butler out. Tall Asian Mike, I want to get this one. JD, that's crazy to say about Kuminga when Pods openly said he gets to eat when Steph's out. Look, I don't like Pods saying that necessarily, but let's just be real. Podziemski won as a guard, so he's going to – and he's basically – he's playing the point when Steph's out. So he's going to have the ball in his hands in more of those spots to be able, in the flow of the offense, to get more shots. Like Kuminga getting his doesn't work in the flow of the Warriors offense. It does, and the other Podziemski takes better shots. Like let's not like, I know for some it's hard to believe that Podziemski's a better player than Kuminga, but Brandon Podziemski's a better player right now than Jonathan Kuminga. Like that ain't a crazy thing to say. Like Podziemski's a starter on this team when they're clicking, when they have everybody. He's getting his run. Not always a finisher, but a starter. Like people need to start coming to grips with the fact that even Moses Moody is potentially a better player than Kuminga. Like Kuminga ain't on some scholarship because he's the number 7 pick and he's the flashiest of the three, to where it's like he's that guy. Like Podziemski's proving he can help this team win, whether Kuminga's playing or not. With Steph, without Steph. Like with Jimmy, he fits really well. Jury's still out how Kuminga fits with Jimmy. Not ruling it out, but so far not great, to be perfectly honest. Moses Moody can play with Jimmy. Moses Moody can play with Steph. Like we're not that far away. Like again, it's semantics in terms of, Kuminga can score better than those. He's a bucket. Kuminga's a bucket compared to those guys. Yeah, sure. But who's helping this team win more frequently and at positions that the Warriors need the help? Like, it ain't a crazy take to say Podziemski and Moody are both better players. Let's give Kuminga some time to work his way back in. Florida Dubs fan, hard to believe sometimes Hield has been in the NBA long as he has. He's absolutely worthless if he's not hitting. That's the truth. Kerr keeps sending him out there. He only had 17 minutes tonight. Kerr went away from him tonight. It's not really going to get much lower than that, I think, in the regular season. I think in the playoffs, it will. But again, that's where this team lacks having a shooter. They need, if Buddy Hield, if you had a Cam Johnson on this team, you wouldn't have to play Buddy Hield at all, actually. I'm not saying you can find a taker for him in the offseason. And again, some nights Buddy Hield helps the Warriors. But if he's not hitting, he doesn't help you. If he's not on the court because he's not hitting and doesn't help you, then you don't have enough shooting. So, and where do you get that shooting? In a perfect world, you get that shooting from adding another wing in the offseason that I think can be a starter or 6th, 7th man caliber type of a player. Basically, what the belief is that Kuminga is. That a guy that can start, but is basically always in your rotation is like a 6-7, type of guy that's going to play a lot of minutes and has the potential to finish on a lot of nights. All right, let's do one more and we'll take a timeout. We'll get the sounds of Dubs OT. Andis Brown, defense is where I'm most disappointed in JK. That's something he could be a lead at if he applied his mind to it. No disagreement there, Andis. And I think it's been, 60-40 to this point. I think maybe he's played 6 games now. I would say 4 of the 6, he's been pretty damn good. I think the last couple of games, the defense has waned. And I thought tonight it was pretty non-existent. But I thought he came back with that intent to do the little things, to hustle, to be a good defender. I thought Kuminga brought that intent first handful of games. Tonight, I don't think it was there. But again, it comes back to the mentality, Andis. I hate to keep harping on this point. I think he does not look at it as Steph's out, I need to be more of a hustle player. I think he looks at it as Steph's out, I need to be more of a scorer. And that means because the team relies on me to be more of a scorer, I don't need to be getting worn out playing defense. Like that's for everybody else. Like I'm the scorer now. I'm the number 2. And maybe even the 1A. Next to Jimmy. So that, again, I think a lot of that is mentality because he has the ability. And look, to Kuminga's credit, I think in 4 of the 6 games so far since he's been back, I do think he's brought that. But again, it's easier to do that when you view yourself as a role player. And I just don't think he views himself as a role player. Like, people have got to start viewing him as a role player and stop. He's a role player to where if he has a dominant night, gets you 25, then that's great. That's found money, icing on the cake, cherry on top, like whatever it is. Like, but stop looking at it like he has to have that mindset and be dependent as well. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get more in the YouTube chat as the Warriors lose this one. 124-115, 808 KNBR. If you want to jump in and join the phone lines, we'll get sounds of Dubs OT on the other side. And still time to sneak in some texts and some calls, but we will get more from the chat and some fun with numbers as we close things up here on a Friday night on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, Warriors lose in Atlanta 0-1 on the 6-game roadie. 124-115 is the final in this one, as the Warriors now 41-30. You look up at the standings, and tonight, Golden State close of business will be 2 back of Memphis in 5th, as they sit in 6th. Memphis is 5th, so 2 games back of 5th. They're 3 back of 3rd and 4th. And only a half game up on the Clippers, only a half game up on the Timberwolves, 1 in the loss column on the Timberwolves with the tiebreaker, even in the loss column with the Clippers. Warriors have 1 more win than the Clippers, but the Clippers have the tiebreaker there. So for all the conversation about 5th, and 5th is still attainable with the head-to-head game the Warriors have against the Grizzlies still to come. But 7 and 8 is also very much a distinct possibility. Let's hear from the head coach in Atlanta following this one. And you can not be surprised to hear what Steve Kerr was harping on here. It was the terrible defense, especially in the first quarter.
40 points in the first quarter. We were swimming upstream the rest of the way, and I love the way the guys fought after that, but it was a layup line in the first quarter. Transition defense was awful. Give them credit. They were ready. They came out smoking hot, and but at halftime, I think they had 23 assists and 3 turnovers, and we didn't impact the game defensively until it was far too late.
No ball pressure at all for the Warriors. And again, they end up the night. I mean, the Hawks ended up with 16, but it was just nothing in that first quarter. And the first quarter of this one proves to be the difference in the game. Question about the travel for the Warriors. Cross country, 1 day in between, start of a long trip. Warriors have been really packing the games in of late, going all the way back to Sacramento a week ago Thursday. It went Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then the long flight yesterday from the Bay to Atlanta. Did travel impact the play tonight, Steve?
I think these games are tough. When you fly across the country and the team's waiting for you, and they've been playing well, and they just blitzed us. It's just it's disappointing, and you want to have a better effort coming out of the gates. But I've been in this league a long time, and I've seen this an awful lot. Tough to get the legs moving and the mind working. That first game, we had this earlier in the season, I think, at Charlotte. Terrible first half. It's not an excuse because it is what it is. Everybody deals with it, and they were by far the better team out of the gates, and that set the tone.
Yeah, it was the difference in the game, and again, the Warriors without Steph, ill-equipped to overcome the poor start. And I go back to just how we started the show. If the Warriors play the game that they played, where they make their little run in the third, they make their little run in the fourth, but Steph gets on a heater in any one of those 2 stretches, then the Warriors are probably right there at the end with a hot Steph Curry trying to bring home the victory, and Jimmy and Draymond able to make more impactful plays defensively at that point. So the bad start defensively is what costs them, but then the inability, as they did get their legs under them and start to compete harder, just not enough offense as the game went on. And you're not going to beat the Hawks 130-124 without Steph Curry. You're going to have to beat them 115-110 or 110-105 or 105-101. And the Warriors just, you can't give up 40 in the first and have that be the case. All right, let's hear one more from Steve Kerr before we get to Draymond Green. Been a lot of discussion about point of attack defense and the whether it's been necessary, for the most part, it has not been as necessary as some would have believed that it needed to be with Jimmy Butler joining the Warriors. So Steve Kerr addressed point of attack tonight, which clearly was not good.
I didn't feel good about it tonight, but, we were the second-ranked defense in the league coming into tonight since we traded for Jimmy. So overall, the defense has been really good. We're right at the top of the league in deflections, forcing turnovers, but didn't happen tonight. So the biggest thing is we got to respond, bounce back. We got a big game in Miami. It'll be a great atmosphere. You lose a game like this, you got to respond, especially where we are, in the playoff picture and with everybody right there in the West. So we got to bounce back.
All right, quote of the game goes to Draymond Green with this one. First of two, he'll weigh in on what's to come, and Steve Kerr alluded to it there on Tuesday night in Miami. But here's Draymond weighing in on this loss tonight to the Hawks to open the trip.
It's a bad loss. It's a terrible loss. When you're in a position where we got a chance to compete for something, 11 games left with everything to play for, you shouldn't have a loss like this. It's too much on the line. Got to win the games you're supposed to win. Obviously, Steph's out. Still a game we should win. So it's a terrible loss.
All right, short and to the point, but on point, I think, for Draymond. And I think it's good that they view it that way. Again, you would like to think that they would have some semblance of a thought to that in the lead up and maybe come out and play more forcefully defensively early. But I do like hearing that from Draymond, because I think too often we've heard, one game didn't have it, we'll be fine. And again, now obviously we're a week and a half away from April, and we're not in November or December or January when you often hear that. That's kind of a pre-All-Star break portion. But I think the Warriors typically downplay losses, especially losses in games where they just don't have it and kind of get blown out. And I know the final score didn't indicate blowout, but they basically got blown out tonight. I felt like, even though 8 minutes to go, 6 minutes ago, it was maybe an 8-point game. Like they got blown out tonight for good point, good portion of the game. So to have Draymond, one of the tone setters for this team, and Jimmy, but to have Draymond have that be the thought, I think is good. I think that bodes well moving forward here, not only for Miami, but beyond, because Miami's the game that everybody's going to be up for, regardless of who's doing what on South Beach the next 2 nights. I guess it's actually technically the next 3 nights, because they're going to Miami tonight. So they're going to be in Miami tonight. Kyle, take notes here. They're actually going to Miami tonight. So it's Miami tonight. That's 1, 2. They're actually going to 3 nights in Miami before the game, including tonight, with no practice tomorrow. By the way, but so regardless of that, they're going to be amped up and ready to go Tuesday. The issue will be, are they amped up and ready to go in New Orleans? Are they amped up and ready to go in San Antonio? And I think having one of those games be the Steph return gives you enough juice in that game to get through it. But nobody's going to have to worry about being amped up and looking to bounce back. And I think that goes both ways. Obviously, the Heat are going to be amped up and ready to go. We'll see how the fans react in Miami to Jimmy Butler. That's going to be a definite storyline. But I think in some ways, having that game be the next game is probably a good thing for the Warriors in front of the national audience. All right, one more from Draymond here before we call it a night as far as sounds at Dubs OT. He weighed in on the game plan against Miami and just what a huge game this is, obviously, for Jimmy Butler. And not only Jimmy Butler, but the guy who went in the Jimmy Butler trade, who's also got a revenge game coming potentially against his former mates, and it's Andrew Wiggins.
I got to come to play. Come out and play defensively. Come out and play hard. We got Jimmy over here. I know this is a big game for him. They got Wiggs over there. I know it's a huge game for him. So just like we want to win for Jimmy, they're going to want to win for Wiggs. We got to come out ready to play. They've lost, 10 games in a row? 6 or 7 of those games come down to 4 or 5 point games, last couple of possessions. So it's a little fool's gold that they've lost 10 in a row. We know who the Miami Heat are. They play hard, disciplined, so we got to come out and play hard brand of basketball.
All right, so appropriate fear there for Draymond with the Miami Heat, who have lost 10 in a row. And, yeah, a lot of close games for Miami in that stretch. And they do play Charlotte tomorrow night in Miami, I believe. Let me double check that, Kyle, just to make sure. Miami hosting Charlotte tomorrow, and then the game on Tuesday night, which will be part of a TNT doubleheader. TNT's feeling good about having that game, even with the struggles of the Miami Heat. They actually flexed that game. They did TNT. That was not the TNT game. I think. Let me look. Let me see if I can pinpoint what the TNT game was that night. The TNT game that night, I think it was Dallas and the Knicks. It was Dallas and the Knicks and Oklahoma City and Sacramento as the nightcap, and they kept the Oklahoma City Sacramento game. But yeah, Dallas and the Knicks got booted for obvious reasons for Jimmy Butler and his return to Miami on Tuesday night. All right, we'll finish up with some Kyle's clicks, but first let's get to Fun with Numbers.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors lose this one, 124-115, as they begin. This is a season-long tying road trip, 6-game roadie. They had the 6-game roadie there to lead up to the All-Star break. With the loss to Atlanta, they split the season series. 3-game road winning streak is over. 2-game winning streak is over. 18-16 on the road, 41-30 at home. Suddenly the Warriors are playing better overall at home than they have been on the road. 16-4 since Jimmy Butler III made his Warriors debut on February 8th in Chicago. They're 16-3 with Jimmy in the lineup, 1-1 without Steph, but with Jimmy. The Hawks, oddly enough, again, they've had some better teams than this one that currently sits at 34-36 through 70 games, but the Hawks have won 6 straight against the Warriors in Atlanta. The Warriors have not won in Atlanta since December of 2018, Kyle. How is that? You got to go all the way back to KD and the final KD year for the Warriors to win at Atlanta. They've split the season series with each team winning, obviously, on the home floor. Jimmy Butler, game high 25. He has had at least 20 in 3 of the last 4 games and his 17th 20-point game of the year. 8th time he's done it with the Warriors. Moses Moody, 20 points, 3rd 20-point game of the year for Moses Moody, although the Warriors dropped to, 18-3 now in games that Moses Moody starts. Brandon Pajemski finished with 19 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, and made 5 3-pointers. Kyle, I got to hit you with that. Brandon Pajemski, seriously, Brandon Pajemski tonight, 19 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, career high tying 5 3-pointers. He also had a steal and took a charge. And people really are like, yeah, Kuminga's better than him. Like that ain't some crazy take, folks. It really is not.
Yeah, and then you look at the plus minus, and first of all, you look at JK. All right, 6 for 17, close to 50%, 16 points in 22 minutes. But then you look at his plus minus, and it's the worst on the Warriors roster.
On the floor.
Yeah,
it was the worst on the court tonight by a lot. actually. Him and Gee. Yikes. Gee probably had the worst night. Actually, I mean, Gee definitely had a worse night because Gee had no points and was a minus 13 in 4 minutes. And that was it. Like Gee had a very bad night tonight. Like, what about this and that? Oh, people start screaming at me, Kyle. Yeah, Gee had a bad night. Gee had a very bad night. All right, let's, did I have anything else here? Yeah, the plus minus. I apologize for interrupting you, Kyle. I kind of jumped in on you there as I was looking to make a little point here, but let me go. There were, Jimmy plus 11 in 37 minutes, minus 20 in the 11 minutes that he was not on the court tonight for the game. And we'll see what the Warriors do. We talked about JK. We talked about Gee there. So let's wrap it up with some Kyle's clicks here. Back to the YouTube chat we go. Maybe sneak in a quick one here on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line 650. Stop with the Jordan Poole crying. He lost more games for the Warriors than he helped them win. Well, not in 2022. Maybe the year after. But again, not only anybody was crying. I wasn't crying. I know others. There are still some that really lament that trade. I think 669 on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. When they got Butler, they basically said, we're going all in on Steph. They should have traded Kuminga for a vet. We don't have time for Kuminga's development. Look, I understood it at the time. He was injured. He was playing some of the best basketball of his career. So I understand not trading him at the deadline. And look, they kind of had made that decision even long before they had made the decision to look to add Jimmy Butler to the fray. So at this point, it's an evaluation of, can Kuminga fit with this team and help them level up to a point where they can be a title contender, or can he be the guy in the offseason that is the chip that you have to use to be able to get that player? And right now it's, again, we're 6 games in. There's still 11 games to go plus the playoffs. So we don't have a firm answer, but right now through 6 games, it's definitely, he's more someone that should be, he's more the guy that can get you the guy than the guy himself. I think at this point, 925, even without Curry, they should beat subpar teams like Atlanta, an inexcusable loss with a chance to get the 5 seed. So some people are still frustrated about this one. And it sounds like Draymond might have texted in there from the 925 in the ATL. All right, Kyle, let's get a few Kyle's clicks, the best of the best here in the final 2-3 minutes on Dubs OT. Robert Brown, JD, are you going to the game in Miami? Are you going to the game for Yes. Dubs OT from Miami on Tuesday night. We'll be leaving on Monday, bright and early Monday. And yes, Dubs OT, that's a Greg Silver night. That's a Kyle Haar night. It is, because of the Giants game, a YouTube only night, Robert. But and I'll just let everybody know right now, we are going to start a little bit later than right after the game. So for all of our regulars, the game's 4:30 Pacific. It's going to end around 7. We're probably going to start about 8 on Monday. Or on Tuesday, rather, because that's going to be one of those nights, because it's YouTube only, because I'm going to be on hand. I'm going to get a chance to go down to the locker room, kind of like the game in Chicago in the Jimmy Butler first game with the Warriors, where we delayed the start a little bit so I could get down to the locker room and help out with some of the post-game coverage and all of that for digital, get a chance to talk to Jimmy, and some of the players there, and what's going to be a big night. So yes, South Beach JD for Monday, Tuesday, and I've got a very late flight back on Wednesday. Very late flight back on Wednesday to try and get out a little bit. But yeah, it'll be 2 nights in South Beach for JD, Robert. But yeah, just and we'll try to let everybody know again. And again, it's going to be a trio. Kyle's dialed, Greg's dialed, and I will be on hand from Miami. So, yeah, looking very much forward to that. That's all confirmed and good to go. Enrique Rivera, Dub's going to fall back to the play-in if they keep laying eggs and letting clowns school them. Yeah, it was tonight was one of those, George Niang was having his way tonight. Okongwu, not a clown, but he's a good player. Trae Young controlled the game. Richache, 14. Dyson Daniels, 12. Levert's a good player. So it really wasn't. I don't know, Kyle. I didn't see many clowns tonight. Like, there were a lot of pretty good players, and the guy that was the number one pick in the draft.
Then this is no disrespect to Richache, but I feel like I always forget that he was the number one pick. Like that draft class had a whole lot of nothing. But
it's underwhelming.
It was underwhelming. But yeah, the Hawks, Dyson Daniels is also really
player.
they have good players.
Yeah, he's a really good defender. Like they actually kind of should be better, maybe. In the East, they should be a little better than 34 and 36, right? No? I don't know. I'm not going to go on another Hawks rant like I did the last time they played. Robert Brown, their defense looked kind of like the defense Atlanta usually plays, which is none. Yeah. Where was that Atlanta tonight? I think that Atlanta may have been here if Steph had been in the fold. The Warriors are just, without Steph, the Warriors are pretty easy to guard. I'm not going to lie. And, Quinn Snyder's no dope, but without Steph, it's just a different ball game. Continuing on here, Flex Kid 34 to maintain the 6 seed, you will have to lose some games. Well, you can't lose too many because then you're going to be 7 seed. But if you're the 7 seed and you play Houston, but again, you got to win your freaking play-in game if you're the 7 seed. Like the Warriors have never won a play-in game. The Warriors are 0-3 all time in the play-in tournament. So I don't know that anybody wants to be in the play-in tournament against Minnesota or the Clippers, or you give Sacramento a free shot to knock you out if you lose the first game. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. But yeah, and right now 6 would get you. What would 6 get you right now, Kyle? I'm looking at it. I got it here. 6 would get you still the Lakers. 43 and 26, but LeBron's playing tonight, so maybe they gain a half game on Houston. All right, how many more we got? AD abysmal defense, outshot by what? What does that mean? What does that mean?
I think he's talking about Niang.
Okay, but I don't know. Yeah, all right, sure. I don't know what those words are supposed to be, but we'll leave it at that. All right, couple more here. Rusty Nail, someone should have told Atlanta were tanking. 7-4 in the last 11 for the Hawks, and they had 3 days rest, I guess, or a couple days rest. The Warriors been playing games every other day. Let's continue on here. Good one, Rusty. Andis, Dre was too passive in the first half, offensively. Yeah, Dre didn't have it. Dre did not have it tonight early. That's a really good point. Draymond did not set the tone tonight. And he has to be one of the guys that really comes out and sets at least a defensive tone. And he did not. He did not have it, to the point where Draymond didn't even finish the first half. Like, Kuminga was that was when Kuminga was on his little mini roll. And Kuminga just played the 4 the rest of the half, and Draymond didn't even come back. It was just, it was one of those Draymond didn't have it games. That for sure. And honestly, I know Draymond came out and owned it, but also, like, Draymond, you got to be better than that. All right, San Jose Jazz fan 4. I wish I had the Warriors in my backyard. They lay a lot of eggs. Yes, they do. Good one, Jazz fan. Like that. All right, let's get to our final one of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Joke's on you. In Minnesota, Jimmy played with a cat, not a dog, and that didn't go well either. That's true. Jimmy likes dogs, though. Jimmy wants dogs. But yeah, he did play with a cat, and that didn't quite go so well. Jimmy gone. Jimmy gone.
No chihuahuas either.
No chihuahuas. No chihuahuas. No Kyle Kuzmas. As we watch Gonzaga, it looks like Gonzaga had a crazy late rally that looks like it's going to come up short against Houston with 2.1 seconds to go. Gonzaga actually had a shot to tie it and then lost the ball. Lost the ball trying to attempt the three that would have tied the game there. So it looks like Houston will survive in advance. All right, Kyle, great stuff as you listen here to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. San Francisco, a Cumulus media station. We will reconvene on Tuesday from Miami. Again, YouTube only. Enjoy the game. And we're going to be with you on YouTube about 8 o'clock. About 8 o'clock, and Kyle will be in the chat. I'll try to be in the chat from down in the locker room area and press conference area to keep everybody posted on when we're going to start. But I would maybe a little bit earlier than 8, maybe a little bit later than 8, but not too much later than 8. I would say 8 o'clock. We'll get a notification out to those on YouTube and a push notification, all that. We'll keep everybody updated in the Jimmy Butler return game from Miami. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. We will talk to you on Tuesday. Enjoy a couple of days with no Warriors basketball. Warriors lose tonight to the Hawks. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Vít Krejci from the Czech Republic throws the hand grenade to Niang, and he hits another three. Wow. He has been a killer tonight. This becomes Atlanta's biggest lead.
John Dickinson. No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked our ass tonight.
No class, no balls.
Everything's gonna be alright.